I call upon those countries and institutions that shelter such stolen assets, do not be complicit in this crime. Return the wealth to its rightful owners, the farmers, the workers, and the ordinary taxpayers. I propose the adoption and enforcement of strong international regulations to prevent the plunder of resources from developing countries and to ensure their return when stolen. Madam President, alongside historic reforms in revenue, we have introduced a market-based exchange rate, brought discipline and stability to the banking sector through asset quality reviews, a new bank resolution ordinance, and a forthcoming deposit protection ordinance. We have modernized capital market oversight with a reformed task force and a strengthened investigative system. In public procurement, e-tendering is now mandatory and conflicts of interest must be disclosed. A new public accounts audit ordinance has reinforced accountability. Our aim is not only financial stability, but also an investment-friendly environment. The Bangladesh Single Window now integrates 19 agencies to simplify customs procedures. Specialized commercial courts have been established to expedite dispute resolution. The Investment Development Authority has set up a coordination committee to ensure smooth, one-stop services, bringing regulators under one roof and easing visa and work permit processes. An FDI heat map and a National Semiconductor Task Force now provide transparent information on high potential sectors. Trade logistics are also improving. Year on year, container handling at Chattogram Port grew by 27.6% in August, a striking sign of new efficiency. These initiatives strengthen economic governance and make investment safer. Bangladesh is now entering a new phase of sustainable and inclusive growth. This progress would not have been possible without the extraordinary contribution of our migrant workers. Month after month, they send record remittances home through their hard work abroad. Their contribution is not only vital for Bangladesh, it is equally valuable for host countries, where they provide essential services in high demand. Migration is therefore mutually beneficial, good for us, good for them. We are also advancing human labor rights reforms in line with our commitments. A committee has already been formed to implement the recommendations of the Independent Labor Reform Commission. Amendments to the Bangladesh Labour Act are at the final stage, including easier trade union registration, longer maternity leave, and expanded social protection for workers in both formal and informal sectors. Online trade union registration has been introduced, and further simplification is under review. As a sign of our commitment to workers' rights, we have also signed the Charter of the OIC Labour Centre. For these reasons, we strongly support safe, orderly, and regular migration. We call upon all countries that receive migrant workers to ensure empathy and protection for them. While developed nations struggle with aging populations, Bangladesh is blessed. More than 60% of our people are under the age of 35. If migration pathways are opened, it will be mutually beneficial. By harnessing the strength of our youth, we can help meet labor needs in developed countries while creating opportunities for our own people. Madam President, the young generation of Bangladesh has already shown that they are the driving force of social change. We are investing in their skills in information technology, artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and green innovation. Our goal is clear: to shape every young person not only as a job seeker but also as a job creator. To this end, in partnership with the UN, we are launching a permanent platform to connect young people at the grassroots with senior policymakers of the government. Across the country, consultations have already begun. Today's youth want to be directly connected to their representatives from the local to the national level through online and offline forums, surveys, and campaigns. They demand greater opportunities for leadership, skills development, and digital literacy. They call for accountability in this process with regular progress reports and continuous dialogue. Above all, they insist that the process be inclusive with equal space for women, minorities, persons with disabilities, and marginalized groups. This year is especially significant for youth policy as we celebrate the 30th anniversary of the World Programme of Action for Youth. It is not only a moment to address the challenges of today's young people, but also to anticipate the crisis they will face tomorrow and to begin shaping the solutions. In this fast-changing technological era, one of our deepest concerns is the widening digital divide facing youth in developing world. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, large language models, modern communication systems, these must not be biased, and their benefits must be shared fairly with all. If not, we risk creating an entire generation who will see themselves as excluded, marginalized, and treated unjustly. Such a generation will be vulnerable to every harmful temptation. We believe that to shield young people from this risk and to spread the benefits of technology to all, technological innovation alone is not enough. We also need social innovation. Almost half a century ago, we introduced the idea of microcredit. It was then a radical experiment against conventional wisdom. Today, it is a globally recognized tool that has lifted millions out of poverty. In the US, for example, Grameen America has disbursed more than $6.2 billion till date to low-income women entrepreneurs with repayment rates close to 100%. Today, in Bangladesh and across the world, we are advancing the idea of social business. It is a form of business where profits are entirely reinvested for social good. Social business has shown that the entrepreneurial spirit of every human being can be harnessed for the welfare of society and the solving of social problems. This gives humanity a creative method to address every challenge, whether environmental degradation, concentration of wealth, healthcare, unemployment, or poverty. It is a path that can be applied and sustained everywhere. Madam President, in confronting the climate crisis, the goal of limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius has already slipped beyond our grasp. The annual pledge of $100 billion in climate finance has not been met. Worse still, the small sums that are dispersed are often shown on paper as many times larger than what they really are. This is unacceptable. For the sake of our children's future, we must act now. The Loss and Damage Fund must be made fully operational. Efforts to mitigate climate change must be intensified, but adaptation must be given equal priority, and adaptation must be locally determined, locally led, and locally managed. Bangladesh has already embraced locally led adaptation as a guiding principle. At the upcoming COP30 conference, we will announce our third nationally determined contributions, which will include both mitigation targets and adaptation actions, with special emphasis on protecting mangrove forests and restoring wetlands. At the same time, we expect the global community, particularly the high-emitting countries, to meet their responsibilities with sincerity. Madam President, another great challenge of our time is the rise of protectionism in global trade. In our own lifetimes, we have seen how trade and globalization lifted almost 1 billion people out of poverty in just 3 decades. If we now turn back, our children will lose that opportunity. It is undeniable that in trade, every nation's sovereign interests must be safeguarded, and no country should be forced to bear burdens beyond its capacity. But for the sake of global peace and prosperity, there is no alternative to open, fair, and rules-based trade. We must also expand the role of social business in global trade. A growing share of development assistance must be directed towards spreading social business worldwide. My generation has witnessed how a system of interdependent economies made conflict too costly and helped preserve peace. Today, more than 120 armed conflicts are raging across the globe. If economic interdependence collapses, these conflicts will only multiply, development will falter, and peace itself will be destroyed. Madam President, the ongoing conflict in our neighboring country Myanmar has created a situation of deep concern for the entire region. It threatens not only regional stability, but also the prospects for the safe return of the forcibly displaced Rohingya sheltered in Bangladesh. 8 years on, the Rohingya crisis continues without any solution in sight. Moreover, Bangladesh faces a slow but regular flow of the Rohingyas seeking protection. Evidently, deprivation of rights and persecution of the Rohingya rooted in cultural identity-based politics continue in Rakhine. Reversal of the process of marginalization of the Rohingya cannot wait any further. Most of the discriminatory policies and practices that made them vulnerable can be reversed, and remedial measures can be advanced without waiting for a comprehensive national political settlement in Myanmar. There must be a political solution to the problems in Rakhine involving the ethnic stakeholders there so that the Rohingya become part of the Rakhine society with equal rights as equal citizens. Towards this end, a sustainable repatriation in safety and security must lead the process for restoration of their rights and their ultimate reintegration with dignity. Bangladesh has been drawn into this crisis as the second victim after the persecuted Rohingya. Yet, we must remember that the Rohingya crisis is not a bilateral issue with Myanmar. Bangladesh has been realizing its part of obligation as a responsible neighbor and a committed member of the international community. But our collective goal of maintaining a minimum standard of living in the camps face a situation of potential collapse given the funding crunch. The World Food Programme warns of a critical funding shortfall for its emergency response. Without urgent new funding, monthly ration may have to be halved to a paltry $6 per person, pushing the Rohingya deeper into hunger, accentuating their malnutrition, and forcing them to resort to desperate measures. Further cuts will no doubt intensify protection and security risks transcending much beyond the camps. Hence, I call upon existing donors and to come forward with enhanced contribution and potential donors to make announcements of generous contribution to prevent this catastrophic situation. The international community, beyond new and enhanced funding for humanitarian assistance, must apply pressure on Myanmar or the non-state actor in Rakhine to bring positive changes there and to seek political solutions urgently. The neighboring countries must assume their responsibilities. Bangladesh will remain available for any assistance or contribution needed towards stabilization of Rakhine that the international community collectively agrees. Bangladesh expects that the upcoming high-level conference on 30 September will galvanize global resolve and generate concrete international support for the Rohingya, with the topmost priority of diversified and additional funding. Parallelly, it must agree on a process with time-bound deliverables as part of a globally accepted roadmap towards seeking permanent solutions to the Rohingya crisis. Madam President, this year, conflicts have scarred almost every corner of the globe, in Europe, in South Asia, and in the Middle East. We live in the most densely populated region of the world. Nowhere else do so many nuclear-armed states exist in such close proximity. That is why we in Bangladesh deeply understand the urgency of disarmament and the prevention of nuclear proliferation. We call for the revival of global arms control treaties that have grown weaker with time. We renew our call for the establishment of nuclear weapon-free zones, particularly in the Middle East and South Asia. At the same time, we reaffirm the right of every nation to use nuclear energy peacefully, with full transparency. As a responsible nation, even before commissioning our first nuclear power plant, Bangladesh this year acceded to the Joint Convention on the Safety of Spent Fuel Management and on the Safety of Radioactive Waste Management under the IAEA. By doing so, we reaffirm our commitment to the highest standards of nuclear safety and transparency. Madam President, I have always spoken the language of hope. I have never believed in frightening people into action, but today I must depart from that habit, for the truth before us is frightening. I must warn, extreme nationalism, geopolitics that thrive on suffering of others, and indifference to human pain are destroying the progress humanity has built through decades of struggle. Nowhere is this tragedy more visible than in Gaza. Children are dying of hunger, civilians are being killed without distinction. Entire neighborhoods, including hospitals and schools, are being wiped from the map. We do agree with the UN Independent International Inquiry Commission that we are witnessing a genocide happening live. Unfortunately, on behalf of the humanity, we are not doing enough to stop it. If this continues, neither future generations nor history will forgive us. On behalf of the people of Bangladesh and of conscientious citizens across the world, I once again make a strong appeal. The two-state solution must be implemented now through the establishment of an independent state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital. Only on the basis of the pre-1967 borders, with Israel and Palestine living side by side in peace, can justice be done. Madam President, in Bangladesh, we believe that we must build a culture of peace, one that rests on the values of tolerance, non-violence, dialogue, and cooperation at every level of society. For more than 3.5 decades, Bangladesh has stood among the leading contributors of UN peacekeepers. This is living proof of our enduring commitment to global peace and security. Even today, nearly 6,000 Bangladeshi peacekeepers are serving in some of the world's most volatile regions under the UN flag, and 168 of our peacekeepers have made the ultimate sacrifice in line of duty. Research has consistently shown that UN peacekeeping missions are more sustainable and effective than unilateral interventions. We therefore call for clear and achievable mandates and adequate funding for peacekeeping operations. We must also give the highest priority to the safety of peacekeepers and ensure accountability for crimes committed against them. Bangladesh also actively promotes multilingualism, both at home and internationally, because we believe that linguistic and cultural diversity deepens mutual understanding. In the 21st century, there is no place for hatred, intolerance, racism, xenophobia, or Islamophobia in any society. Yet today, disinformation and hate speech have become matters of grave concern. In the aftermath of the last year's popular uprising in Bangladesh,